really go, this is it. This box is what it does. But you have to kind of fit and know how specifically it kind of operates. So I'm happy to answer. And once you get it and it kind of clicks, then you kind of see kind of repetitive pieces and you kind of know like, okay, this is what I do when I get an agent from another company. And they do have a couple of Achilles heels in there, here and there, but ultimately at the end of the day, we've really tried to set up .loop as efficiently and easy as possible for you. And I said this in a class one time a year ago, and I got so many gasps and audible no that I had to go, no, wait, I'm clarifying. This is the year of the forms, so I'm changing and working within .loop, but I'm not changing how you guys use .loop. We're going in and we're making sure that all of those autofills are working correctly. We're making forms more consistent. So we're doing that on the back end. So no need to panic. .loop will still work in the exact same ways that we've set it up. It's just a matter of making sure that those kind of nuances between some of those forms are formatted the same, that the signatures are in the same spot, and that those autofills are working properly. Because I'm a big person of pet peeves. I hate it. It drives me nuts when there is one small teeny tiny thing that could be very easily fixed that I don't go back and fix. So if there is one small thing that you're like, every time I do the purchase agreement, I have to do this one thing, and it would just be easy if it put, say, the state in there instead of every time I have to put NE for state. Let me know. I can fix that on the background. I also like to go on rants too, because I geek out about a lot of things. So if there's any direction, and I can also, we can start really anywhere, Carol, because we can start in .loop. We can start with questions to lead where kind of this call goes, or we can have a coffee break so everybody can kind of.
Yeah, we're off our break, and if everybody could turn their cameras on, that would be great. And then Leslie can see who she's talking to, and it helps us to pay attention too, doesn't it?
I was just gonna say, I've mastered the multitasking on Zooms. I figured out how to get as close as possible and still type and look at the correct spot while I'm actually working on emails.
Good.
Carol knows this.
Yeah, Leslie, you're really good at not even changing the expression in your face.
Carol will get 4 emails from me while we're on a Zoom. What?
It's good, actually. No, I think that we just want you to just go and help us through this. So if there's any questions that you guys have, you can put something in chat, and then I'll call on you, or I won't call on you if you don't want me to call on you. Most of you guys are pretty chatty. So, and I like your questions. You guys have really good, these guys have amazingly good questions.
Oh, I love it.
Great conversations. So I've already like showed you off to Leslie. So please don't disappoint me here.
I'll tell you this, if you can stump me, I'll give you a $50 gift card. If I have to ask .loop and it's not a glitch, I'll give you a $50 gift card.
Ooh. Okay.
I know.
That's good.
And I haven't been in .loop and I haven't trained it in a while. So there's definitely some opportunity for that to actually come in.
Okay.
So really quickly, before we jump into it, I see there's some comments coming into the chat, but can everybody really quickly post in there your comfort level for .loop from 1 to 10? And this is not any, this is, if you're a 1, put a 1 in there. If you don't know how to log on to .loop, just put a 1 in there. But this will just let me, give me a little bit of insight as to how much you guys have been working in it, and then what I can kind of gear the conversation to, because I really want to show a couple of templates and task lists, and then maybe go back to more of kind of the basics on details and setting up your dashboard and such.
I put a number in there for you, Leslie.
Carol. So Carol just wanted this class for her. She didn't want to ask for one-on-one training.
No, I'm actually probably about a 7, but
I would guess that you would be. And then one other question. Have you guys written a contract or received contracts within .loop? Just a quick, yes or no. Okay, perfect. All right, I'm going to hit the questions really quickly, and then I'm going to dive in and we're going to screen share. At any point in time, I will not be looking at the chat very much. So if you put, unmute and put that little hand up, And then that'll trigger me to give you time to interrupt me, because we don't take much of a breath. So there's not much opportunity to really dig in there with questions.
And Dana
As much as I
says
try.
it depends on the day. So,
It does.
and that's true, Dana.
It is very true. So, all right. Kathy, able to show how to partially fill in a PA with the most common pieces and save it and use it as a template. Yes, that's one of the ones I want to talk to you about today. Katie, couple weeks ago, Jen Tucker did a training for accountability group. She mentioned making a template for the contracts. Perfect. So maybe we'll start with templates.
Same question, I think.
All right, perfect. Okay, I'm going to pop really in. And am I a host, Carol?
You will be. I'm going to make you the host. There you go. You the
Perfect.
host.
Okay.
Leslie, I want you to see if you see this too. Look at Chrissy. Doesn't she look like Kristen Lale? Something about her looks like.
Yeah, well, I think it's the energy.
I don't know. She just reminds me so much of Kristen Lale on the Zooms. I'm always like kind of distracted.
I love it.
Eyes.
Yeah.
We're gonna start doing breakout sessions based on who you look like.
Yeah.
I had an agent's client tell me, "Are you related to that person? Because you sound a lot like them." Well, I don't know if that was insinuating that I'm working for them and not you, or if that was actually that the sounding is the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Take it.
So I'll do a quick share here. Now I'm going to pop in and out as we go. If there is ever a time where you're like, go back to that one thing, just let me know. Okay. I'm going to make you guys smaller. So that raising hand thing actually isn't going to work when I'm screen sharing. Let me do. All right. Hold on. All right. I think I've got everybody over here. Okay. I think I can see everybody. If you put your hand up, just let me know. Do that little the Zoom hand up icon, because I can see that one a little bit better than people moving. Okay, so you guys all know that when you add a loop, it gives you the option. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're just gonna do a pretend loop, right? Doesn't really matter. That we have the option to add a loop template. Now these are loop templates that we've set up here with the Good Life group that has basically the basic information. There's nothing extra in it. So a lot of times if you need an FHA disclosure or FHA certification or lead-based paint disclosure, those aren't going to be there because it doesn't affect every single property. And so we wanted to just get that loop template to the absolute core of what you have. So let's say, for example, we're going to do it as a purchase. We're not going to upload a photo, even though I always thought it was a good idea, but I never actually uploaded photos for any of them. Okay, so first off, I am going to tell you one thing that is super helpful is when you use these statuses. Once you start changing these statuses, the search functionality on your dashboard is going to be so much easier. So I'll talk about that later because that's a really easy thing that doesn't involve too much. But we're going to talk about making your items into templates for your own. Now, this will require a little bit of manipulation within the loops because, like I mentioned, everything that's in a loop template is the basics. This is every document that you'll need, and it is to accommodate every single agent within the brokerage. So there's not a way for us to say that purchase agreement, that 2021 purchase agreement has exactly how you like to fill in none or only or all the time, or it autofills your name most of the time. But you can create templates like you all were asking about. But the thing is I'm going to create a template and then I'm going to show you the extra 2 steps that you have to do. I think it's only 2 to get that in there. So if you're writing an offer very quickly, do not expect to, and you're not familiar with using the templates, I would just stick with this because you have to then start adding different documents and replacing them. So first off, let's just do the purchase agreement. And that's the one that I always would do. We'll just, let's see who's in my group. I'm not gonna do this Janet, because I don't know her, she's probably from another. I'll do my daughter, who's here, she doesn't know it, but she's she's buying a house. We're gonna take that away. I'm gonna change me here. Now, some people like to fill in their details here. I don't, because sometimes things change. And I like to trust that my autofills are correct. So if your legal description changes because you're writing an offer on a different house for that client, it's going to populate with the incorrect legal description. And how often do we look at that if it populates itself? Probably never. So we're just going to do an autofill here. All of the yellow ones, of course, are the ones that picked it up. Now, what some of these are is like, here's what I always do, or only. No exceptions, except, do no exceptions and none. Now, so we all have our ways that we like to fill out each piece of some of these. Some are a little bit easier, some are not. I would always have green title checked. I know there's a couple more that I'm just not. There's another green title. And I mean, this is the newer purchase agreement, so I'm not as, oh yeah, I'd always change this to do, I don't know, 3 days or whatever the case may be. Anyways, so just gonna scan through a couple more times and then we're gonna save it because really that's the most important part. So we've already saved, or we already have our information in there. I did this backwards, you guys, I'm sorry. I went through as if I were regularly. Back it out, 2 seconds. So you can create a loop that's a test loop, but so if I were teaching a regular dot loop class on how to autofill, that's exactly what I would have done. I should not have autofilled at all unless I was autofilling myself as the buying agent. Because then those autofills are going to be corrected. So apologize about that backtrack, except. All right, so we have everything in here. Let's change my stuff again. We'll just do those guys because it's pretty easy. We'll see if green title pops up here. There we go. All right, so one, we need to save this, which is okay because we can always save and go back to an auto share or autofill portion of it. But now what we'll do is, now that we have everything fit into what we want, you go to file. It's not going to save it as a template. Oh, son of a. Where's Carol? She should be bugging me about $50 gift card time.
Sorry, my dog.
All right. I totally back-ended this. Carol, I was joking about that. I started off on one tangent where I usually go when I train, and then realized, wait, I have to backtrack, and then did it incorrectly again. All right, so you create just any, you could do a test loop and make sure you don't have any autofills. So what you do is check your little box, do make a copy. And we want to do the dot loop document, and I'm going to cross my fingers that it will allow me to edit. I think it will. Now you want to do it to your templates, and you're going to have, I believe your personal documents will always populate there. I think the my purchase documents I've created in the past. But I'm going to create another folder, and I'm just going to do and we'll just say that this is, I just want all of my purchase documents in one spot. Maybe it's easier for me to just pop in and grab from there. Because if you're doing autofills for other documents, it might be dependent on whether you're representing the buyer or the seller. So I'm always, exactly like I say, to niche down and hyper tag. I like to really get in there deep. So I will always have something for my purchase documents, my listing documents, my dual agency, and also, you know, if I have more where it's an unrepresented client.
So you have separate file systems for each one. And
Uh-huh,
then within those, you have your loops.
yes,
Oh, that's a good idea, actually.
all right. Now. Man, you guys really, I should give gift cards to everybody because this is, I started in the entirely wrong spot. I started with a loop. All right.
You know
We
what,
could get one
Leslie?
of those, what are the, from Men in Black, those little things that erases your memory from that.
Yeah.
Forget about the last 10 minutes of me talking. We're gonna go straight into the loop templates. So have you guys ever seen, use this button up here in the templates without being in a loop? Okay, this is now where we start. We got a first timer over here. All right, so I have my personal documents, my purchase documents, and the ones that I created. So at any point in time, you're always going to be under your documents, and you can create a new folder from here if you like. Which we'll do this again, 4-7 real. Okay, so now I have the one that I just created in here. So now we have an entire folder based on anything that we're actually needing to do, right? So now we're going to add a document straight from our templates. We're going to go down to purchase, and depends on how many of these you guys want, but I'm going to just do the purchase agreement. You could have any of these other ones, but really for the most part, they're already auto-filled. So if we click copy here, there we go. Now I would rename this, because if you're trying to add it, then you could confuse yourself with what the actual brokerage one is. But you also want to keep in mind that the label of this document is going to be sent to your clients, right? So I would say, let's do buyer purchase agreement. And we know that this is going to be our custom actual template here. All right, we're gonna try this for the 4th time now. Oh, there's template options. All right. You could just save template directly. We want to save. So I want to pick out, what's going to happen is it's going to give me the option to replace it or to save it. Yeah. All right. Template options. Make form fillable by anyone who signed permissions and all that structure. All right, we're good there. And I wonder if we can add straight to, perfect. Okay, so I just saved it. And remember, it's in our real purchase docs. So now that we've gone all the way backwards into where we should have started from, it's kind of like creating email campaigns in Zap. Yes, templates can be changed as you're actually doing the input. So you could always go back into this and go, you know what? I've run into it too many times that people don't actually want green title as their title company. Like, it's just causing too much issue. So now what we would do is we would start our loop. So basically you would want to set up your templates ahead of time, because that's going to be the easier one. And then we're going to go back into my 1, 2, 3, 4 main, if that pops up. There we go, in Utah. So now what we would do is we need to add a document, because we have to add our own personal documents and then replace the brokerage documents. So when I click add here, I'm going to go from templates, because we've already created our own personal, my real purchase documents. Select that guy and make a copy. Now we don't want to get too confused, because now we have 2 purchase agreements in our loop. So what you need to do from here is take that and drag it over our purchase agreement. And now when you open, I'm not going to autofill this time, but now when you open, you can see the verbiage that I added there is still there. It does take 2 extra steps though. So my suggestion is to create your templates when you don't have a buyer's offer that needs to go in by 2 o'clock today, right? We don't want to do that. But create your templates when you have some extra time. You can do your listing agreements that way too. Have all your listing documents ready to go. Again, there's not too much that actually comes up without the autofills, but there are some of those things just like these that we do every single time on a purchase agreement. You could also actually add different pieces here too. Like I would maybe add all remotes always. And it used to be window coverings, and I add all window coverings. So there's some of those that have been eliminated. But if you save it here, it's not going to save it in your templates. So think of your template as the master parent file, and then anything that's in the loop is the sub and child file. So with that all said, I actually, when I wrote contracts, I didn't use templates because I found that it took more time to add a template, drag and drop and replace than it did for me to go in and do just these couple of things. But it's personal preference. If you get used to adding your own templates and you do it that way, great. I think there was, Rhonda, I think, doesn't Tim have something a little bit more specific in his that he uses for his purchase agreements? So he has like maybe a little bit more in like that 10C area.
Exactly. So we always have, so I've got a special template folder for all of his different forms. And in 10C, we've got, you know, because all of his buyers, whenever he has a buyer, they're always pre-approved. So we have in there buyers pre-approved, letter is attached to this offer package. We used to always put in there, you know, the earnest deposit to be delivered within 48 hours, but that's different on the purchase agreement. We have in there information about, I think it was 1 or 2 weeks ago, we talked about how, you know, we're offering to take on the cleaning of the home, you know, all of that detailed, you know, any additional things that you're always going to offer, I've got in there. I don't have it up in front of me though, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that's good because that gives us a little bit of an idea of what else you can add to it. Like even this, current taxes shall be paid prorated as of closing. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of kind of those little pieces and points. And also we have 2020 in here. Why has no one told me that this is 2020?
Well, there you go.
$50 gift card to Leslie.
Just always thought we were supposed to put 21 on the back end of it is what
Yeah, that's what I do.
I know. Or you could leave it as just 21.
You know what, Leslie, I said something, we wrote an offer the other day and I said to Laura, why does this say 20? And she said, well, it's in the template. And I never even I don't know what the hell year it is anyway, but right now, because we lost a year. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
We didn't even question it. It was in the template. That is so weird because it was just 2-0. It wasn't even like 2020.
Yeah, it's just 2-0. So I'll leave it either as 21 or I'll just remove it completely and people have to just put, you know what we could actually do, which would be better, is I'll just drag this whole line over and make it the entire thing. And then it'll just be, then you could just add the date. I'll add it as a date option. So you just kind of click and add the date.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot better.
Leslie, something else on the, when you get down to like the brokerage information, when it auto populates, it still has 4908. So if you don't catch it, you have to go in and put 4949.
All right, Rhonda. Our first 50.
Oh, no.
Perfect.
No, just an FYI.
Oh, right. Come on.
So like this is another where she's got it on section 30 too. I know everybody's different. Not everyone will charge the straight 350. So there are some situations where maybe Tim, depending on the buyer or seller, that might be a little bit different.
And we do always keep that because we used to not have that as an autofill, but we found that agents were excluding it entirely and they were kind of skipping over that box.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're like, oh God, we got to make it at least there so people can edit it. But because people had to eat that 350. So, I mean, I don't know how much you guys know, but we pretty much never waive BAC fees because we don't charge any extra monthly fees to the agent. That's really where our income comes in so that we can provide you with subpar dot loop training, where the first 15 minutes that she talked about was the backwards way to do it. So that 350 is really working for us. All right, so any questions on the actual templates? I've got one in chat, okay. All right, Kathy, because I tend to submit lots of offers per client, I'd love to make one template folder per buyer with some of their common terms, forms, initial signature boxes. Can we make a template folder per client and then delete the whole folder later so the template folder doesn't get too full? Or once you've made a folder, is it in there forever? Two schools of thought on that. You can make a folder for each one. I think that what we might have found, and Kathy, we might have to play around with this, because if I'm guessing, maybe not. Rhonda, when you're in on your section, can you see the old Omaha purchase agreements?
Yes, I still can.
Okay, perfect, because I'm in mine. So yes, you could create as many templates as you want. So I could delete this guy. Delete this guy, because that was my previous one. And actually, you could just do my copy like here, because when you drag and drop and replace, it's going to rename it. So it just depends on if you prefer to archive the old copy or if you like to drag and drop. So you could do that. Now, the other thing that you could do, and this, this is personal preference, and it's probably good to talk about this just in general because there are so many offers being written. Now, the other thing that you could do is have just one loop for every client, not every house. That would just mean that you would have to change the details piece of that and be very careful with your autofills. But the reason that I like that is that it's all in one spot. And so basically you could label it with their last name. Now, obviously, when you're submitting it to us, we really would like you to have that final address. But what happens then is that your clients on their end, their experience is a little bit more streamlined, because when you see it from just, gosh, I wish I had Nora's login, which I might. If you see it from their end, it can get a little bit complicated if they don't necessarily know what a loop is. Let's see what I got. I don't have any that I shared with, but good to know. So on their end, if they see just one loop with all of their documents and each folder has its own stuff, that's a lot easier to work through than having to go back to the dashboard and go through different loops. However, in the actual working of the transaction, if you prefer to have a separate loop so that it's easier for you to keep track of each one. For example, if you have a few buyers that are in that you're writing offers with kind of simultaneously, is it easier to have one loop per buyer or one loop per transaction? And that's going to be personal preference. I see it both ways. I've always preferred the one loop, but that's my thing. So yeah, it just really depends on how you'd like to do it, because then if you have one loop, then you don't have to transfer over, say, agency or wire or affiliated business. So with multiple loops, you'll have to make a copy to your other loop, which is fine. It basically takes about the same time as the other one. So I wouldn't say that one is more efficient than the other. It's just dependent on how kind of your brain operates a little bit. All right, any more questions on that really confusing way that I taught to do with loops? So
Oh, no, I just wanted to piggyback on what you just said. So like, let's say affiliated business, the disclosure form. So when you, like with Kathy said, I've had buyers, I think we're on like our fourth try. You don't, there's a way for me to move those documents into the new loop rather than having them have to sign those again.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll just do.
You just have to make sure that you change the address in the bottom so that it corresponds to the new offer that you're submitting.
Gotcha. I always thought it was funny. I was having them sign disclosure like every offer, but I just didn't know another way around it.
Yeah, you just need one. These are empty. All right, hold on here. I'm going to pop into admin really quick, which is a lot easier for me to do. Actually, this way, there we go. So we'll just say that this is our agencies. What you'll do is then you'll hit make a copy. You
Okay.
always want to copy it. Well, yeah, I would copy it as a .loop document. You could do flat, but I always do .loop. You don't want to do templates because that's what we were talking about before, but you can do a loop. And once you do that, then you can scan through or start typing in your loop actual name. So I would click there, and then I can even select which folder I want it to go in. And then you just hit copy. So now you have two there. .loop's a lot of basically carbon copies of loops, taking one thing and putting it somewhere else and figuring out which one is the one that has the best copy of it. Okay, press hard, third one's yours. So there's that piece of it. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you, if there's no other questions on templates, creating your own personal templates, and then also loop templates too, or anything that kind of involves having multiple scenarios.
So I have a quick question. I'm sorry. I had to jump off because I had a call, but when you're looking, like, so when I have a listing and then I got all these offers and they're going in like the original like loop that, I don't know, they're all going into one loop, which I don't even know how they got there, but they all went to the same place. And then the offer that we accepted, then I took all those documents and I copied them and put them in a different loop with that address on it. And now I still have this other loop that has like all these offers in it. What do I do with those?
Yes, so you're going to have those always. And we can change, this is where that transaction type is and status is going to be helpful because you can change that. Let me find one that, I'm sorry, as we hop in and out of these, it depends on what role I'm in and whether or not it's a transaction that I've personally done. So let's just see, let's do this. Oops, all right. Now then this brings up another one too, is that I also, if you operate on a buy sell, do you keep it in the same loop or not? Because you can do both. You just have to change, you know, whether or not you change the name to say purchase, and then you'd have to sell. So that's up to you too. Now the other thing too that I really like to do, and sorry, I'll backtrack, Nicole, I'm sorry. So I would select my transaction type, which would be both, and the loop status. So what you would do is then archive or terminate. Neither one of those are ever going to disappear. They will always stay there. The one thing about .loop is that there's not like a trash button that you can't get rid of, or you know, that never comes back. You can always, always, always find something on .loop. We just had one this week where we had a client that signed listing documents and then the agent had, or the client had modified something and deleted those. So we had a purchase that was closing in a few days that didn't have an active signed listing agreement, and the agent was freaking out. Well, we can go back into our history and we can find all of the different iterations, and we can actually see who's viewed it and who signed it. So like here, it's just one. And then you can also see all of the history that happens within your loop. So if I do the activity log, then I can see that Leslie has been messing around in my loop, hopefully only doing a training. But you can see everything that's happened. You can see when admin's in there. You can see, look at even messages. There's all sorts of information that you can always go back in. Now, the one thing that I really like is this task list. And this is one that I found during business planning that I don't teach often enough, because so many people were like, I didn't even think that existed. I actually don't even scroll to the bottom of the page. I only ever stay kind of up in transaction paperwork world, right? So if you're in a loop, you can always scan down and add a task list. And you can add your own, right? You can also, to Kathy and Katie's point, you could create a template for this too. So you could create your own task list template for your buy side, sell side, active listings, listing appointment, open house. I mean, these are just to-do lists. You can assign dates to them. You can assign other people to them, which I really love doing. You can assign a seller to get his bathroom paint touched up, right? So you can operate within Dotloop more than just transaction management, which if we have time and I haven't thoroughly confused everybody, I'll talk to you a little bit about the benefits of what you can use Dotloop for outside of just signatures. So if we go down here, you can add your own task list and then create it as a template. The other thing is you could load template. Now we already have tons of templates that are already ready for you. Now this comes in handy when you get under contract or you have a lot of different things happening, so that you can keep track of more specifically what is happening with this. So here we have our listing under contract items, and this goes into even your appraisal and termite. It even goes into removing the box and arrange for your sign removal. So this is all here for you to use. You could also take this, add your own things and create your own template. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. If there's something you do, for example, maybe it's order your closing gift versus drop off your closing gift. You could create a task on that. You could use this template, create your own template, and then add to it and make it very specifically customized to you. Especially when it comes to these pieces, because right here, what you can do is, let's say I submit a status change form, right? So right now it's unassigned with no due date. Well, I can make this due today, or let's say tomorrow, and I can assign this to someone. So I can assign this to basically anybody I've ever talked to in my entire life. So I could assign it to myself, which I think I'm in here. There we go. So then I know that tomorrow I need to submit a status change form. And then, for example, let's say termite inspection. What if we have an assistant or someone that's helping us with that? We can assign this a due date for, say, after another task. And let's say that's after we get the repairs and replacements plan. Then I want to assign this to Alex to follow up with, to make sure that the termite inspection was ordered or received. You can also you could assign this to your seller, right? So kind of like I was talking before, let's say you're prepping to get on the market, you could assign specific dates to them. You could even assign things like go see a movie on Sunday from noon to 3 for open house. So you could have those things, because what's going to happen is it's going to pop up in their inbox and then it's going to redirect them into Dotloop. But for the most part, this is just a really good reminder, especially as you're writing multiple offers on things, as you're getting under contract with other things, as you're getting ready to list, as you're doing all of these other things. You know, the last thing that we want to do is wake up at 3 a.m. and wonder, oh my gosh, did the home warranty get ordered? You know, so having some of these things in place can really kind of help alleviate some of that. And I'm sorry, I've not been monitoring the chat.
There wasn't anything else. This one just came in.
Perfect.
A great way to get this really great template. Yeah.
So all you have to do when you're in a loop, all you have to do is click on load template. And this is a listing under contract. So let's say you just met with your sellers and it's not under contract yet, but you need to prep for it, right? So now I have an active listing plan. So I need to complete the lip sheet, right? I need to get the documents executed. I need to submit, well, we have to submit photos, but maybe you need to schedule the photos or schedule a staging appointment, or whatever you do on a regular basis. You can add that again and create it as a template. And it's my goal this year to get more of those things that aren't necessarily paperwork oriented and are more action oriented, like schedule open house, print flyers for open house, create open house flyers, post on social media, post on Facebook. Some of those things that don't necessarily require you to be in Dotloop.
I think one of the really important points that Leslie's making here about this is and maybe some of you are only thinking like one transaction, but if you have 4 or 3 or 2 or 10 transactions going on and you're trying to keep this in your head, oh my God, did I schedule this? Did I schedule that? It's so much easier if you just have something that's tapping you on the shoulder via your email to tell you, or that you're assigning it to if you have a transaction coordinator that's doing that. But these lists are priceless.
They're very helpful. And Kathy said, is there a spot to make a note on each item? There's not, but you can rename them. So let's say it's a very specific repair for your sellers. So let's say this one, create repairs, replacements plan with sellers, right? So this could be
Check on roof.
sellers, yeah,
Yeah.
sellers to have roof inspection.
Yeah, it's great.
And then you could say, now this is what I really like call Royalty Roofing, put their number there, 402, blah, 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 blah. But the other thing that you could do is you can add a link. I don't think it's realtyroofing.com, but we're gonna put betteromaha.com just so I can show you how it looks. So now they have the contact, they have the phone number, they have the link, and they have exactly what they need to do. And you
That's
can,
those 3 little dots that you're getting that choice to change.
that's because I pushed those because I don't know their number.
No, what I mean, the 3 little dots is where you got it. Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, sorry,
Okay.
3 little dots. So the other thing that I think is just so cool, but I think I just geek out on this stuff, is that you can put links in here. So I could click that and it will take me directly to whatever, to .looping and unavailable. Perfect example. But I used to do this for some training things too. So I would add different like links to .loop, say videos, right, on how to do XYZ. So yes, you can't make notes, but there's a workaround for that as well.
Will you speak to, and you can either do this now or in before we're done, speak to the fear that people have of screwing something up and not being able to undo it?
Yes, there's always a way to undo it.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, almost always, unless they sign it and you send a purchase agreement that's fully executed over to an agent and they sign it without any counters, then there's nothing we can do to undo that.
Right.
But you can always, and it depends on if you're sending it to, say, a client, right? So for example, you send a purchase agreement to a client and you realize that you forgot to put in section 10 about who knows, review of the seller's disclosure and whatever. But you've already sent it and shared it. You can always make those changes and reshare. So let's say it's this one here, except I haven't shared that, so I need to go back here. So, all right, so this one here, so this one's already signed. But let's say I make a change and then I need to send that off after I've already sent it, right? So you would hit the share again. Now what you would do is you can see, so Rebecca McGuire is the one that's already signed it. So that's when people kind of freak out because your person's not there. So then it's like, oh my gosh, hit that reshare with options and just click it again. And then you can change this. I've used this a lot when I've shared the seller's disclosure and I shared it as a view or a consign only instead of a fill in sign. I've done that a lot. It just immediately reshares it to them. But once they click it, it's going to take them back into that same set of documents. So when you send it over as a bundle, they're just going to click it. It's going to take it straight into the system and they're going to sign and then go, okay, it's magic, it's done. So once you do this and send it back, if they are in the document already, you guys might have seen this before, but there will be a little pop-up that happens that gives you 3 options. It says that so-and-so is modifying this document. And I think the options are, you can request to take it back, you can take it back, or you can make your own copy. If they're in there already, I would just say take it back, then they will not be able to do anything with it. And then you can just text them and say, hey, I needed to add XYZ to it. So go ahead and go back in there and send it. Now, my favorite thing, if you guys don't do this already, my favorite thing to do is when I'm sharing fully executed documents, is I share them to everybody. I share them to the lender, I share them to title, I share them to the other agent, I share them to all of the clients that are on my end that are involved. Because you can send it all in one. You can just say, hey all. And then guess what? Now your client knows that you've sent off the documents to title and their lender. And you can put notes in it and even say like, all right, Joe, I need you to do, Joe, here's the executed documents. Let us know when the inspection is going to be. Nate, can you start working on title work for it? And Alana, if you have any questions on getting the mortgage running, you guys can connect and get any missing information. It's in one email. And then everybody knows exactly what's happening all at once. Now, one other thing I want to hit on when it comes to that task list is that it does get emailed to you every single day. However, you can always go into your tasks portion here. And I never look at this because there's a lot of assignments on the admin end. If I go to personal tasks that are assigned to me, anything that's overdue. I guess I don't have any. Anyways. You can see exactly what's needed. So it's nice if you're using this and you have it all cleaned up, which I suggest if you want to use tasks, go in before you do anything. Go in and start checking those boxes or deleting them. So you start with a clean slate. Because then you know that when you're checking tasks that need to be done, they are actually tasks that need to be done. Now, the other thing is that it helps you with missing information. So kind of like Carol said, it's easy to think about when you have just like one document in place or one transaction going. But when you have multiples and you're say missing a document when you've shared it 4 different times to that buying agent and they are not responsive, they have not gotten it back. And then you realize a couple of weeks later that you have not even touched base with them, right? Or you're missing something, like say, Garrett's bugging you about getting a transaction or a signature on a transaction. What you can do in your search piece is change your filters to what you need, right? So we have your review stage, but you also have listing review stage and you have return to agent. So if I go in here and you guys know that I'm a really big advocate of in business planning, assigning days for your tasks. So if Tuesday is your client contact day, where you call all of your active clients that are under contract and you do any tasks and follow up with any title items or inspection items or whatever, that you add this to part of your checklist, because you can add this as return to agent, hit apply. And these are going to be the things that our admins have basically said, hey, we need something from you. So you can go back in easily and keep track of that versus, getting to the end and you get pestered with 4 different messages saying, I need this signature. Because it's not always going to be easy to grab signatures, especially when you're already under contract. Everybody's kind of like, we're good, unless it's a change to the contract or an inspection item. I'm not going to pay too much attention. So the other thing too that I'll talk about really quickly with filters is that you can create your own filter settings to defaults. So me personally, I like to use the different loop statuses as almost categories, right? So we never archive sold listings because it kind of screws with a bunch of things. But if you have multiple offers that you don't have accepted, put those into archive so that you don't have to see them, because you don't need them. We don't need them. But then you can change it and have those automatically to be, let's say you have an active listing and under contract are the only things that you want to see at any given point in time. Well, that could be your main setup on your page if you're using your property types. So it's all about organizing, because if we look at this admin page, there are thousands of loops. Every single loop that every agent creates stays on here. It's a lot. And it can get to be a lot on your end too, because I think, Nicole, you were kind of talking about this, when you have a lot of different offers coming in and then documents are coming into different loops, it's hard to keep track of knowing which loop is actually your loop versus which one is, say, another agent's loop that's sharing with it. And so a couple of workarounds to that, and again, this is going to be personal preference, is that I always tend to send my .loop signatures over or shares attached as a PDF, because now we have a lot of people in town that are using .loop. So that only means that it can get more complicated. So if you send as an attachment, then they can download it, and same with you. Download it out of your loop, put it into, or download it out of your email and put it into your loop. You can also email into your loop, which I think is really kind of a cool thing that I never did, but I have some agents that swear by it, that email straight into the loop. So if you may or may not be curious, because this might be just kind of, you know, something to just keep in mind, is that if we're going to add a document, there's this little email one over here. Now, the cool thing about this is that every single email that you have is going to start with loop dash your loop name. So before, say with DocuSign, that would be just a jumble of mess that you would never know what to do. But if you're in Gmail and you've already sent this one time, then it's going to pop up again when you go to send it for that same thing. So then, so if we do this, and I'm logged out of Gmail. And I'm kind of all over the board, you guys. I apologize. Usually my trainings are kind of, you know, a little bit more streamlined and accurate, right? So let's do this. We're going to forward this out. And this is my loop email address. Might not actually do it. Do this. So it has to be a PDF. I'm going to paste this guy. So loop dash, a lot of different numbers and things. All right, so I've sent that. I'll pop into here in a second. And we're going to need to refresh it. Or maybe keep refreshing it. But I have a lag on mine, that's why. But the other thing is then the next time you have someone that sends you a loop, what you do is create, compose. And if I start typing in loop, it starts popping up right there. So now I never have to actually remember it. So for all of you tech junkies that don't want to download things onto your computer to then go back and be more organized and delete, it pops right out, as long as you start with the loop. There we go. All right, and so now that document is straight in there. Not that this, you know, file needs it. Any questions on emailing or adding? There's another way to go about multiple agents using .loop, but I've tried it with a couple of different people. It was .loop solution, which was a quick link, and it never really quite worked. So, I mean, it worked, but it was more an educational thing. An agent needed to know how to use that button, and we had too many agents that were a little bit newer in our industry using .loop that it didn't really work. I might circle back on that at some point and start doing, it's called easy offers. So we'll see, probably not now that it's crazy market, but maybe when we get a little bit more of an equilibrium, that'll give us some opportunity to kind of solve that problem of multiple loops, multiple emails and documents going in and out of different loops and whatnot. All right, so I won't take too much more of your guys' time because I know that you guys have gotten so much training and such today. But one thing I want you to think about is using .loop before your transaction with your clients. When you are having a listing appointment, when you are on a buyer's meeting, I want you to be talking about .loop, and I want you to talk about it as more than just a signature platform, because it can be used for so many different things on the client end. And then you can start having them use that and get used to it before the transaction comes in. You could share empty contracts and documents with them that they can review before they even get to that phase where they're writing an offer, which makes sense, right? We want people to know what they're signing. And if we only have a couple of hours to put something into place, then that does kind of, people don't read that nearly as much. They're going to trust what you say versus going through that line by line as if you were at the kitchen table. So just keeping that in mind. The other thing is that you can put all of the title documents in here, and you can put all of their inspection invoice receipts, right? So then what happens is next year when their basement leaks and Thrasher had done some work there, well, they then have one spot. If we get them used to working within Dotloop, they know that they can check there first. Think of their taxes, they're buying a new house, right? They've got some tax pieces of things that they need within that. So getting them used to that, because there's also this messaging component, and there's a Dotloop app, right? So have them download the app on their phone, and they can sign when they're in line at the grocery store, and they know that they have to get this thing going, but they've got to pick up the kids and run and make dinner, and they don't have time to open up their computer before offers are due. So have them download that app, have them get used to being into it, because it's going to ask them to create an account. Yeah, have them create an account. They get like 3 free loops. Perfect. Then they always know that they can go to Dotloop instead of having to search their email. Because you guys see how many emails we get from Dotloop, right? Dotloop signed. You signed this. Carol needs you to sign that. You completed this. And then if we start adding tasks, they're going to get a lot of things, so they might start ignoring it. Or if they're like, I need this one piece of information, and they're digging through their email about it.
You want to go?
Isn't it much easier if you're on Dotloop, if you train them to go to Dotloop, educate them to go to Dotloop first, that this is the home for all of your documents, then they have a much easier experience for it.
Perfect.
So I'll get off my horse on that one.
We didn't even notice the horse. This is great information, and this is like 1/5 of a percentage of what there is to learn. But I think you opened the mind of learning more, and all of you just feel free to send any questions via email. And you get stuck with something, don't quit just because you're stuck, and you can't hurt anything. That's the most important. Is there's ways to get out. There's the exit button there's the exit button that helps with everything.
Yes.
To go back and redo.
There's delete, there's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of information, and like Carol said, that's really like just a teeny tiny percentage of what Dotloop can do. All you need to know is that something exists. If you know that templates exist, but right now isn't the time that you want to spend on doing that, and 6 months from now kind of seems like it, just that you know it exists, we can get you to where I can go, hey, Leslie, remember that time you were talking about templates about something? We can always rehab the conversation. You don't have to learn everything. You just have to know what it can do. And then when it's time to fit your business or your clients, then kind of put those pieces together.
Yeah, as you start narrowing down what it is you need based on the experiences that you have, you go like, oh my God, I'm doing this again.
Yeah.
Just did this. Like then it all can be done. So just cracking the egg now.
Yep.
Make the meals. Thanks, Leslie. I really appreciate your being here. And
I'm always available for you guys.
yeah. All right. Great job today, you guys. Talk to you soon. Any questions, any concerns, anything, just reach out to me. I'm here for you. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Guys.
Thanks.